Hello, students. Welcome back to your history class. This is Mrs. Jenny Shah, and we are doing the question and answers of Chapter 4, the Central Islamic, Islamic Land. We finished Chapter 1 last time. We continue with question number 2. Describe the life sketch of Muhammad Sahib. In this, you will divide this answer into 4 parts. There will be 4 points. In the life sketch of Muhammad Sahib, you're going to speak about his early life, him becoming a prophet, the hijrah to Medina, and finally about his success and death. Prophet Muhammad, so the first subpoint is early life, and in that you will mention that Prophet Muhammad, who is the founder of Islam, was born in 570 AD in one of the Arabian tribes called the Qurayshi tribe. This tribe was the custodian of the Kaaba shrine at Mecca. Early life of Muhammad was not so happy. His father died even before he was born, and his mother left the world when he was hardly 6 years of age. He was then brought up by his uncle, who was a merchant. Sometimes he was busy in tending the flocks of sheep, but generally he helped his uncle in his business. At the age of 25, he got an employment with a rich widow named Khadija. By his hard work and honesty, he impressed the mistress so much that she offered to marry him. Muhammad married her and had several children by her. Then we end this point. We talk about the second point, that is becoming a prophet. Muhammad Sahib was a spiritual type of man from the very beginning. Even his marriage did not prevent him from meditation and prayers. During his travels, he came in contact with the Jews and Christians and was very much impressed by their monotheism. He hated idolatry and was always busy thinking of some way out of the ignorance into which his countrymen had already fallen. He often went to Mount Hira, that is near the city of Mecca, and he spent long hours in meditation and prayer. It is said that one day, when he was meditating, light dawned on him, and God asked him to spread the true faith among people. This revelation provided a turning point in the life of Muhammad Sahib. Next, point number 3 is Hijrah to Medina. He now made up his mind to spread his new faith and to reform the miserable conditions of his fellow men. He openly condemned idol worship and preached against all sorts of superstition. By doing so, he turned all of his own tribesmen against him, because most of his tribesmen lived on the income that was derived from Kaaba, which contained more than 300 idols. His preaching against idol worship meant loss of livelihood for his relatives, which they could not tolerate. Consequently, Muhammad was abused, stoned, and even attempts were made to kill him. Finding his position in Mecca very insecure, he shifted to Medina on 2nd July 622 AD. His shifting to Medina is popularly known as Hijrat in the history of Islam and the Hijri era. The Muslim calendar starts from this very date, that is 2nd July 622 AD. The next point, the fourth point of this question is Muhammad's success and death. In Medina, Muhammad Sahib was, however, welcomed and gradually he won over a large number of followers to Islam. He gained so much influence and power at Medina that all the attempts of his rivals to put obstacles in his way proved futile. In about 630 AD, he, along with his followers, invaded and conquered Mecca. Thereafter, he completely destroyed the power of the Qurayshi tribe. He asked the people to give up idol worship and have faith in the Almighty God, that is Allah. He ceaselessly continued preaching his faith among the people and he won a large number of followers. In 632 AD, he fell ill and soon died on the 8th June 632 AD. But before his death, he had converted the whole of Arabia to his new faith, that is Islam. So we speak about his entire life, all the way from his early life till his death. We speak in point form so as to make our answer easier for us to understand, and also it will make it more organized. Next question is question 3. Throw some light on the technique of Muhammad, or throw some light on the main principles of Islam. In this answer also, it will be a point form answer, and there are 9 points to this answer. We begin with Muhammad. Muhammad himself did not put down his teachings in a writing form. So he himself has not written it. His teachings, preachings, and sayings were conveyed by him to his followers from time to time during his discourses. They were considered as God-given by his followers. After his death, his disciples compiled them into a volume which came to be known as the Quran. It is considered as the holy book of Muslims, and they call it their own Bible. It contains prayers and stories and is written in the poetic style. The teachings of Muhammad form the chief principles of Islam. The teachings of Muhammad form the chief principles of Islam. Some of the main teachings of Islam are, and then you have it in the point form. The first one is God is one and only power, and he alone is worthy of adoration. You can quote, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. God is all powerful, all wise, and all merciful. There is one God, not many gods, as the pagans said. These are all quotes of Quran. Second point will be about the idol worship. Idol worship is a curse, and everyone should shirk doing it. His monotheism is very much similar to that of the Jews and Christians. Number 3, Quran is a divine book and its authority is unquestionable. The sayings of Muhammad are regarded as God-given, and they were compiled in the form of holy book the Quran. Fourth point, Islam believes in life after death, in heaven or in hell. There's a quote, there will be a day of judgment when everybody will be punished or rewarded according to their deeds. Next quote is, eternal damnation and fury torments awaits the faithless and the doers of evil in hell. And eternal happiness is promised to the righteous and the faithful. It means that the sinners will go to hell and suffer many hardships. The good and the faithful will go to heaven, where they will be served by beautiful damsels, having cheeks like moon, eyes like pearls, and lips like sugar candy. Happiness in the heaven consists of physical pleasure and is very much akin to the belief of the Christian. Fifth point, all men are equal and there is no question of superiority or inferiority. Muhammad preached the principles of equality and brotherhood. In his faith, there was no distinction of any sort whatsoever. And so, there was no class hatredness among the followers. This single factor proved a very potent factor in the popularity of Islam. This is very, very important why Islam was hugely popular. Sixth point, the Prophet enjoined upon his followers to perform the 5 duties of Kalima, Namaz, Zakat, Ramzan, and Hajj very faithfully. Kalima implies certain hymns proclaiming the unity of God and faith in the mission of Muhammad. Namaz is the prayer very necessary for every Muslim. He is expected to say 5 prayers a day at set intervals. After that, he should practice zakat, which is charity, and give alms to the poor and the needy. He should keep fast during the month of Ramzan. This is regarded as the most pious duty for every Muslim. And finally, Hajj, or the pilgrimage to Mecca, is also regarded as a sacred duty of every believer. Seventh point, Muhammad allowed his followers to keep slaves, but at the same time asked them to treat them most kindly and leniently. So they were allowed to keep slaves, but they had to treat them with humanity. Eighth point, he was not in favor of giving high status to women in the society and allowing them full liberty. They should live in harems and not move about freely. They should practice the parda system. But Muhammad was in favor of treating women very kindly. Last point, the ninth point, Muhammad laid great stress on morality like Christianity and Judaism. He taught his followers to abstain from drinking, gambling, taking flesh of faith, charging of interest on loans, etc. He taught them to honor the parents and to do justice to all people. Comparing Islam with Christianity, one writer has put it that Muhammad's code embodies the 10 commandments of Judaism. And in certain respect, It resembles Christian ethics, especially in its emphasis on the duty of forgiving injuries instead of avenging them. But his code is less elevating than Christ's. It allows polygamy and it bids his followers to spread Islam by the sword. So this is two questions today. I will end my class here. Next class, we will do the next two questions. With that, I end today's class. I hope you all are writing down these points. These are really important ones. This is going to be a chapter that will come in your midterm assessment. So please study well. Stay home, stay safe, take care, and keep studying. Thank you.